So the following is in the manual, and these are the policies for Specialty Eye Care Group, and we can briefly ask questions, but if you have a question that may go a little bit longer, let's talk about it at another time so we make sure that we get to lunch at 1. Make sense? Or if we get through it fast enough, then we can cover more of it later. So, we need to find... So, during the introductory period, the assigned buddy will explain your job responsibility and the performance standard expected of you. The practice reserves the right at any time to change how the responsibilities or how your job position is, or assign additional jobs within HR for Health. So just as an FYI. For new hires, that means anybody that's in the first 90 days of their employ. And during this time, training and introductions and learning responsibilities and so forth is things that we're working on, and assigned buddies will help through that process. Then we have classifications of exempt and non-exempt employees. A non-exempt is an employee whose job does not meet the FLSA or these applicable state exemption tests. And so those are who are not exempt from minimum wage and overtime pay requirements. Non-exempt employees are eligible to receive overtime pay for hours worked in excess of 40 hours. And employees will be informed whether their status is exempt or not exempt, if you want to know. So most of you are not. And then full-time employees are people who work more than 34 hours, and they're generally eligible for all of the benefits we have within our practice. And part-time employees are those that work fewer than 34 hours, and they may be assigned different work schedules in advance and on an as-need basis. They're eligible for some, but not all of the benefits that we have. So personal data changes. So to better assist the employees and their families in an event of emergency, we want to make sure that we have everybody's information updated, and we have a document within Google Drive, and want to make sure it's updated within HR for Health as soon as anything changes. If all of a sudden you get married and we didn't know you got married, we want to know that, and that can involve, or if you just have a baby all of a sudden, those sort of things can be helpful, particularly with regards to making sure that for tax reasons, if you're going to have a dependent or something on your taxes. So we do have an open door policy, and this is an effort to try to make sure we improve our practice. So if you have a complaint or a suggestion, it's a good idea to bring it up, and the best idea is to go to your buddy first, and then the two of you can investigate ways to work through the system. And then beyond that, it's to go to the culture group, who can then investigate and provide some sort of solutions or explanations. Prefer to make a complaint in person, or you can contact the buddy or the culture group. And the culture group may delay in making a decision or changing how we do something if they feel it's important from their meeting to contact somebody in the office. For instance, if they need to talk to Dr. Shen or Dr. Young and they're not at one of those meetings. So our open door procedure, we believe, is important for both you as well as the practice, but it can't guarantee that every problem will be solved the way you and we want it to. However, we value your observations and feel like the more concerns that you can raise, the better it is for us. Punctuality and attendance, and as an employee in a practice, we expect you to be punctual. So tardinesses or absences can cause problems to fellow employees, and we have meetings in the morning for the particular purpose of making sure that we're all on board for what's going to happen every single day. And all the doctors at both locations hold those meetings and find it to be very valuable to try to get everybody on board for the day. So it's crucial that you're at those meetings. And if for some reason you're going to be late, it's a good idea to let your buddy know a long time in advance so that we can prepare ahead, particularly if you're going to be helping with a patient or something. So just again, getting back to getting to your buddy if you're going to be gone. In cases of absence or tardiness, the employee must provide the culture group with an honest reason or explanation, and the employees must also inform the culture group of expected durations if we're going to be gone for a long time. Excessive absenteeism or tardiness isn't something that we tolerate. We define excessive tardiness as more than 4 days absence in a 2-month period. If you fail to report to work or notify your buddy of an absence for a period of 2 days or more, we don't know whether you fell off the face of the earth if you're not answering your phone or something else happened, and so we may actually fire you at that point because we don't know what happened and end up hiring somebody else. So it's called a voluntary abandonment, or that you quit, essentially. So we don't fire you, it's basically that you quit. And that's something that's run through the state, and it's an understanding that if somebody has not shown up for work, that it's a voluntary abandonment. Computer and internet use, basically don't let it take away from your work time. If you do have to check your Facebook, you can use your phone and go into the back room or do it on a break. And for your self-owned devices, make sure that you keep them away from where patients can see them. So we don't want them at the front desk. We don't want them in the back. We want them in your cubbies in the far back. They're not to be at the front desk. They're not to be left where anybody can see that you have them. If you do have an emergency, you can have somebody call the office, or you can check your phone on a regular basis if you need to. These are the holidays that we have observed, and as stated in the manual, if a holiday falls on a weekend, you don't get paid for it. But Christy and I want to pay you all for Christmas Day this year, and so we will be observing Christmas either on Friday or Monday. We think we know which one that is, either before or after, and so that will be your paid day off this year if you normally would work on that day. So you're eligible for holiday pay if you are full-time, non-exempt employee. To be eligible, you must be regularly scheduled to work on the day which the holiday is observed, and must work the regularly scheduled work days immediately before and immediately following, unless an absence of either day is approved in advance by the culture group. Holiday pay is equivalent to the number of hours that you're normally scheduled to work. So our paid time off, the practice provides PTO for eligible people, and this can be used for vacation, sick leave, holidays, or any other type of reason why you want to be off. We don't specify in our PTO as being sick days versus holiday days. So we just give you the number of days and you use them however you want. Eligibility, paid time off are for full-time and part-time employees who have completed their 90 days. You accrue it at 0.833 days per month, which comes to be a 10 days per calendar year, or per year, and part-time employees accrue it a little bit differently as stated in the manual. Carryover at the end of the year, we don't let you carry more than 3 days over. So we encourage you to use your PTO during the year and not to try to carry it over, because we don't want an employee to take 3 months off at a time of PTO. because that can create a hardship. Now, if you need an extended period of time off and you've cleared that with the culture group and it's going to work out for the office, great, right? You need to go visit your dying grandmother in Italy before she passes away, then there may be times that we can do that. So requested PTO and documentation, it needs to be cleared by the culture groups, and you need to try to get it cleared a month in advance at least. And the schedule will determine the permissibility of a paid time off in order to defer it. So in other words, if, per our example, two ladies request the same day off and it's not going to work for the office, we may actually say no to a day off. We don't like to do that, and we don't do that often, but it may have to be if it's going to challenge patient care. In the event that more than one person requests time off, then consideration will be given to more seniority or whoever asked for it first, depending on the circumstances. And then because the culture group is going to be figuring this out and you guys are going to be working through this together, there may be ways that you can work around situations other than what's outlined in the manual. So all PTO needs to be documented and approved. It needs to be used in a full day increments, which are equivalent to the number of hours the employee is typically scheduled for that day. So our benefits for eye care is that all full-time and part-time employees are eligible after they've finished their 90 days. Eligible employees' immediate family members are also eligible for certain benefits. Eligible employees receive vision and eye health examinations at no charge once a year, as well as medical eye care as needed. Your spouses and dependents receive 50% savings, which we don't combine with insurance, on any of professional fees for exams, routine contact lens evaluation, and Optos. Medical eye care is not covered under this benefit for spouses and dependents, but we can bill insurance for those things. And when vision insurance coverage is available for employees or their family, we can either bill the service, but the co-pays will be waived or written off. So if you have vision insurance, we'd prefer to use the vision insurance, but would write the co-pay off. So as far as employees' wear of eyewear during working hours, we obviously would love for you to wear eyewear. And in order to do that, whether it's glasses or contact lenses, we offer full-time employees at least one pair of ophthalmic prescription eyewear or glasses, where the wholesale, our cost, is not more than $250. And if the balance of the cost is greater than $250, let's say that you buy a $1,500 frame, and our cost on that $1,500 frame is $400. Well, we would cover $250, and then you would pay whatever is in excess of that. So if a full-time employee wishes to purchase sunglasses or wants to buy glasses or contact lenses in addition, it's just our cost plus 20%. So we'll pay for one, and then if you want to get multiple pairs, and Allie wants to get 12 pairs, and Sophia only wants to get one, well, we don't do it free for both of you. Allie has to pay cost plus the 20%. Part-time employees also are eligible to purchase a pair of prescription eyewear at cost every 12 months. So they purchase it at cost. And their dependents are eligible for one pair at 50% discount off retail. So the eyewear benefit for employees and family members are not to be combined with managed care, as already stated. And if you decide that, and this is a new thing, so eyewear and contact lens benefit apply for specialty contact lenses, whereas we apply the $250 benefit to the wholesale cost of the product and services. So custom contact lenses have not been something that have necessarily been covered, or procedures like LipiFlow have not been covered in the past, but we're essentially doing the cost of it. And then if the cost of it is more than $250, then you pay the remaining balance of the cost. Does that make sense? Okay. And then if you elect to do vision therapy for some reason, rather than paying $180 a session, we offer you vision therapy services at $65 a session. So scheduling and pay, anytime an employee is having an eye exam, selecting eyewear, or if you are doing something that isn't bringing revenue into the office, we would encourage you to clock out. So if you and your 12 kids come in and you decide to have them all get an eye exam and all get glasses, and you spend 2 days doing that, we'd prefer you to not be on the clock when that is going on. You should, yeah, you've got a lot of kids. So maternity leave, if any of us are pregnant within or before 60 days of the due date, we would require a written notification of your intention for maternity leave. And we would want to submit that to the culture group and include the length of your planned leave and whether you intend to work. For military service, we support people who are in the military, and this doesn't necessarily apply to anybody that I know of that we have right now, but we would just need to know of the leave before going on leave. If for any reason you're a victim of domestic violence or sexual assault or stalking, or a family member is a victim of such, we want to, and you need to take reasonable leave, we would support you in doing so. We would want to also know what your intentions are for coming back and a time frame for what you would want to come back. And if, God forbid any of this happened to you, we can outline things in the manual, and you can meet with either myself or Dr. Christie and go over what we would need to do to help you out. And the culture group, if you choose to facilitate their use, would be there to support you as well. So the jury duty leave, if you need to go on jury duty, we've got that outlined in the manual as well, and we just need to know, the culture group needs to know what's happening so we can appropriately get that scheduled. If you need to leave to go vote, you can do that, but most of us hopefully vote through the mail. But if for some reason you don't have a stamp, I'll give you one, or if you need to go to the ballot to actually vote, because that makes, there's something about going to the ballot. Yeah, you can do that. If for any reason anybody's family passes away and you need to take a couple days off for a funeral, you can take 2 days off and choose to use it as PTO or not to do that. And the culture group needs to know in advance in order to make sure that there's circumstances set up. The performance evaluation is also changing, so each employee who chooses will receive periodic performance evaluations through HR for Health that will be conducted by his or her assigned buddy and will be processed through the culture group. The frequency of the performance may vary depending on your length of the service, your job position, your past performance, changes in job duty, or reoccurring performance problems. So the review process will kind of be outlined, and the process of getting raises and so forth will not be tied in to the same time that you get a performance evaluation. So if you come into a performance evaluation, do not be expecting to get a raise or a pay cut. Your evaluation stands on its on its own, and potential raises or bonuses will be incurred at a different time than during an evaluation. This is our work schedule, as most of you know. It's relatively well understood. And employees need to be clocked in and prepared to work at least 15 minutes before each work day. So if we start beginning at 8:40, if the huddle begins at 8:45, you need to be ready to work, clocked in at the designated meeting time, on time for that. So don't come in at 8:45 for an 8:45 meeting. If you need to come in earlier, obviously, those sort of situations happen. Work schedule is outlined by the culture group for now. It's outlined by Nicole and myself, but as time goes on and the culture group gets going, we will be changing that. Our meal and rest period, and then we'll take a break so Tricia can leave. Meal and rest breaks are lined up that you need to take a break if you've worked more than 5 hours in a shift. It's actually the law that we have to make you stop for at least 30 minutes. Sometimes people say, I want to work through my break. That's against the law. We're not allowed to do that. And if you said that we allowed you to work through your break, you potentially could come back on us later and say, no, I chose not to.
Is that new? It used to be you could waive it, I thought.
Yeah, so if we can waive it, we're not. I'm not aware that we are.
Okay.
So it must be taken between the 2nd and the 5th hour of work. And if you need a break for any other reasons than the hour that we give at lunchtime, obviously you're allowed to go to the restroom and get a snack or do whatever you need to do. But generally we would prefer you to not do that when 15 patients just walked in the door. So if you do need to take a break, just let one of your buddies know. Okay. If you need breaks more often than is stated here, that's something that we can outline for the culture group to kind of give us a clearer description of. Yeah, and if for some reason somebody has to take a break more often because of health reasons or whatnot, we would want to respect that. So I want to respect you needing to leave.
Thanks.
I'm not going to respect the rest of you because we're almost done. So.
Thank you. I had one question before I go. How do we reach the culture group? Do they have a mailbox or an email or something?
So at this time, you can email either Julie or April because of their roles currently in the culture group.
Thank you.
As time goes on, there will be more specified parameters. For example, if you want to take a PTO, then there'll be a way to do that. At this moment, until we let you know otherwise, that still goes through Nicole and or myself. So anything you may choose to do through the culture group, we're going to morph through this together. But we wanted to let everybody know what's happening before we start instituting changes.
And if you do email us a culture group thing, can you put it in the header or whatever, culture group, so we know that it's somewhere?
Sure. Sure can.
Thank you for being with us this morning.
Bye, buddy.
Bye, buddy.
I'm gonna bring you a rainbow shirt.
So not-exempt employees have a different way of recording their arrival and departure and meal times. So that does not really apply to many people here, but they do need to record their own time at the start and end. When employees receive their paycheck, they should verify that it's correct for the working time, so that we can make sure that we correct anything that wasn't done the way it should. And that applies to any of you when you're looking at your hours or your paycheck, whether you're exempt or not exempt. You're not supposed to log in as other people. So if your buddy or any other employee asks you to log them in to put them in for working, even if you're standing right there and just say, hey, I need to run to the back, can you log me in? The answer is always no. So nobody should know your password. Nobody should know any of those things. And that sort of thing is subject to disciplinary action. Along those same lines, because it has come up recently again, is your wages and your salary is confidential information to you and you alone. and disciplinary action for sharing what you're getting paid could result in you being fired or terminated. That's an important concept that we need to make sure that everybody's on board with. The circumstances and the reasons of why you got hired at the dollar amount you got hired also do not need to be shared with other people. Capiche? Our practice is a smoke-free workplace. It is prohibited in the state of Washington from smoking within 25 feet of an enclosed space. It is a policy of Specialty Eye Care Group that we do not employ people who smoke. If you go to Vegas and you smoke a cigarette, you're not going to be fired. But if you come to work and we smell smoke on you, we're going to take it very seriously. As other healthcare organizations and other institutions who are promoting health and wellness, that's the bandwagon that we're on. This is the bandwagon that many healthcare organizations are now on, is that we do not employ people who smoke. So if you feel that your security is at risk, you need to let me know immediately, and if I'm here, or you need to let multiple other people know what's happening. This may be more important for people in Seattle because we're right on the street front, but we need to make sure that there is protective systems in place for people. In addition to that, if you see anything that's suspicious, let multiple people know before you take action. There has been cars that have been broken into in our parking lot, and so if you see those sort of things that are suspicious, let us know. It was like 4 years ago that it happened, but I mean, it might happen, right? And somebody's bowling ball got stolen. So, serious thing. We are a drug-free workplace, so we do not allow illegal drugs, and to that point as well is we consider medical marijuana to be on this categorization as well. Even though alcohol is legal, you're not allowed to be drunk at work. And even though marijuana is legal, you're not allowed to be under the influence. And also, so that is as it is. We want to keep our work area clean. This goes to the on-stage and off-stage, but to clarify what this means, drinking beverages is allowed, obviously. We would prefer it to be in, if you need to have water with you for some reason, that's okay, but it cannot be seen by a patient. That makes it difficult for people who are at the front desk, but ideally, nobody at the front desk is drinking anything that could spill and get all over patients' records. And if you're a technician, if you're drinking anything, it needs to be out of sight of patients. So food, beverages are ixnay on stage. Try to be polite and courteous, prompt, attentive to every patient. And when you're encountering people, be nice to them. And if you're not feeling capable, then tell your buddy and have them do it. So be nice. We'll go over this a little bit more, what that means, but ideally don't place a patient on a hold for 7 minutes. Treat others as you would want to be treated and show your desire to assist patients by helping them. All correspondence and documents, whether to a patient or others, need to be prepared and error-free, so we want to look over things very closely. In our practice, we have a policy that we don't believe that the patient or customer is always right. I take your side. If you guys feel that there is a situation where somebody is in the wrong, we support what you say and what you think. However, we never let the patient know we think they're wrong. There's a difference, right? So we find a workaround and we find a compromise for people, but we don't need to get into heated battles of arguments. And the other thing that's not outlined particularly in the manual is that we don't take abuse, verbal or obviously physical, by anybody. So if somebody is speaking to you over the phone or in person in a way that you feel is inappropriate and you don't feel like you need to be heard or need to be talked to that way, you can excuse yourself from the conversation with my full support. If somebody is swearing or is using abusive language on the phone, you're allowed to gently say, "Thank you, I feel like we should have this conversation later," or you may speak to somebody else in our office, but I don't need to be spoken to with abusive language, and you can hang up. So I support you in that. Understand? If people are abusing you, I will fire them from our office. And so we need to be we need to be told about those sort of things. Just know what the situation is. But you're supported in that way, okay? So if there is a gigantic wind or rainstorm, or some other inclement weather, we have a process in place. In light of recent events, we are writing up an SOP for this very thing. Should we all give a hand to being... So there's a plan in place of what we do for those inclement weather days. So if there is a day and the weather is permitting us from coming to work, you may choose to use a PTO to cover that day, but that day does not automatically get covered as a work day because the snow kept patients and us from coming to work. How may I answer some questions about the policies that we have outlined in our manual?
When is culture group gonna start?
Right now, the culture group has elected to go on leave, and they are not meeting on a regular basis. We want to work through the system of moving into the culture holacracy group type of setting effectively, and we don't want to do it the wrong way. So I would probably say it'll be at least a month or two. And what I'd like to do is outline level 2 training first. And Brittany is kind of helping us steer what's the right, we want to do all this stuff, but we want to do it in the right order. So I think kind of getting everybody to a level of training where you're feeling comfortable in your job, and then we'll move into that. And Nicole and I want to be supportive to help manage as best as we can in this interim period. But you'll see more and more direction from her and I coming down of, well, what do you think you should do to solve that problem? Or is there anybody else in the office that you can go to try to fix that? And so we may not be answering questions the same way that we used to, because we want you to feel empowered to solve it the best way you know how. Obviously, if you need to know a question that isn't something you can find out, yeah, we're here to support you. Does that make sense? What other questions? Okay. Is there anything that anybody feels and are willing to say is unfair in the manual? Or you would like to discuss?
It's not in the manual, and Nicole probably already brought it up to you, but, about our early days off thing that was just implemented. Is that something that has any plans to change, or can be discussed, or whether this is an inappropriate time to?
Yes, so that is definitely something that within the culture group can be discussed and reviewed. I probably for now am gonna say that we're gonna leave it as is until the culture group meets to discuss it. We wanna make sure that we don't go so close to overtime that somebody feels that they're gonna go into overtime if they stay on Friday. And 3 o'clock on Friday, 5 people need to leave or go into overtime. Obviously, this is a situation that's not likely to happen, but it may be that something happens and we need that extra hour or so to be able to make it work.
It's like, what are you
Oh,
talking
okay.
about?
Anything else?
Can you explain the holiday if it lands on a weekend thing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the purpose of the holiday is to reimburse you for days that you otherwise would not be working. So if we choose to observe a holiday, and have a day that we don't work, we'll generally pay. But if it is a holiday that we don't add on a day, then it'd be like we would be paying you for 6 days of working a week. Does that make sense? You don't have to agree with it.
Give a different day in observance of.
Yes.
So this company does not, is that what you're
So
saying?
we generally do,
Okay.
but we don't make that our policy to say we always will.
Okay.
Does that make sense? So, and if you look at the list of holidays that we pay,
Which is Christmas, New Year's, 4th of July, those are the ones that would rotate. The other 3 will always be on either a Monday or Thursday.
yep, Memorial Day and Labor Day are always on a Monday. So, January 1st, July 4th, and Christmas Day, as you stated, could rotate and could be at a place where, yeah, that,
So this year, January 1st and Christmas Day are on a Sunday.
yes. And SEG intends, actually, January 1st isn't this year. Next year, it's,
Okay, let's get technical.
so generally, we take a day off in addition. And I believe this year is no exception. And in which case, if we take an additional day off and you work on that day,
Correct. It's your scheduled day.
Do we get like New Year's Eve off? Not necessarily paid, but New Year's Eve off and like the day before Thanksgiving? Is that like a thing?
You can have New Year's Eve this
you
year.
can have New Year's Eve off this. So,
Oh, I get it.
this year, and correct me if I'm wrong, the day after Thanksgiving, yes. So the day after Thanksgiving, we're taking off.
Okay.
It is a non-paid holiday. You can choose to use PTO. And occasionally SEG does this, but we try not to do it often. But occasionally we will take, because some people get really mad at us if we take a day off and don't pay. And some people get really mad at us if we don't take the day off. Because it's like, so I think this kind of comes down to a culture group decision in the future, because I don't want to be made to look like the bad guy all the time. But yeah, I mean, we have a certain amount of money we can give away for PTO and holiday pay, and we would give that to the culture group to choose. So in most cases, and I can't tell you for sure what we're doing this year, but we may get out a little early, or we may, not come in the next day. So Thanksgiving is an example. We will have the rest of this year figured out very soon, within the next week or two, to let you know how to plan. I also want to highlight something that is definitely not seen as very popular. And this is going to be something that I'm very excited to give over to the culture group, is that our policy states that we do not allow time off in December. So the reason why that is because we oftentimes, not every year, but oftentimes in December, do like half again as many eye exams as we do in every other month. So it becomes our busiest month. And Dr. Christie and I try to ease that a little bit so that you guys aren't totally swamped, but it does happen. And